In today's video, we're doing a January recap and February reset. Let's get right into it. Okay, friends, welcome back to this series. This is the first video of the series in 2025, and I am so excited to jump into this. Of course, in this series, we start with recapping the month prior, which is now January. I know January was like 4 months long, but we're going to do a recap on that. And then we are going to reset and get things prepared for the upcoming month, which is now February. Happy February. So the structure of these videos are pretty much the same every single time. I start with, again, that January recap, and I will go through some slow living favorites, such as products, experiences, practices, and any movies, TV shows, games, books, things like that that I can recommend from that month. Then I will look into my planner and go through some planner reflections. I use the same prompts every single month for those reflections, and I'll share them with you so that you can use them as well. Then we will do a quick Notion tour, get things cleaned up and set up for the new month in there. And then we will come back to my journal and set things up in the journal itself for February and talk about any goals that I have for February as well. I'm adding one new thing to this video series. I will be answering one question from the comment section at the end of every single one of these videos. So if you have any questions that come up as you watch this video, feel free to put them down below, or if there are any random questions, you can put them down below as well. It doesn't have to necessarily be about planning, resetting, recapping, stuff like that. Okay, so jumping into the first part, which is my slow living favorites for the month, starting with products. I can actually show you the first product, and that is glass palettes. So these are not specially made as palettes. And what I mean by palettes, I mean like painting palettes. These are actually thrifted. They are just random pieces of glass that I found at the thrift store. And honestly, I think this one was in a microwave or something like that. But the point is, I thrifted them for the purpose of being paint palettes, especially for acrylic paints. And these things are incredible. I don't know why I wasn't using glass palettes in the past. I was using acrylic, and I do not recommend acrylic palettes if you're painting. They do not clean well. You literally have to scrape off the paint even if it's been on the palette for a few seconds. So I do not recommend using that material for your paints. Use glass because it is really nice for mixing paints. It feels very fluid and good on this particular material, and it cleans so well. You can have paint loaded on here for a long time and get super dry, and you can still run it underwater and it will clean really well. And if not, you can go at this with like a paint scraper and it won't damage the palette. Everything works perfectly fine. So this was such a good thing that I got myself into, which is thanks to a Skillshare class where the teacher actually suggested this. So a really good suggestion by that teacher, and I am now suggesting it to you. Another product is my snowy wintry landscape mug. I also thrifted this, and there was something about the brand that was on the mug itself that really appealed to me. It reminded me of something, and I was like, this is familiar. This is a familiar brand. I just don't know what it is. So I ended up Googling it while we were online, getting ready to purchase it, and it's a New York City printmaking company from long, long ago. And so I thought it was really funny that it was a New York company, and that's probably what clicked in my head and made me remember it. But also, I really love how nostalgic the mug looks. I think it's from the 90s, I'm pretty sure, based off of my research, and it just brings back a lot of nostalgic vibes for me, and I love the wintry scene on it. I think it's so, so cute for the winter season, not necessarily for like the holiday season. It can extend past that as well. And I think I got it for maybe $1 or $2. It's such a steal. It's so cute. And then the last product is another mug, but it is from Drippy Pods, which they did gift me this mug, but it is such a freaking cute mug. The little drips that come off the edge is so cute, and I love the color. It's the color matcha, or that's the color that they named it, and it drips all the way inside the mug. So it's not just dripping on the outside, it goes all the way down inside the mug, and then there's a little bit of the exposed ceramic on the bottom. So I just think it's super cute. It has a lot of personality, and I just appreciate this brand thinking of me to send me and gift me this mug. I use it all the time. I think it's so cute, and they have so many different sizes as well. I have no idea why my voice is going in and out, so I apologize if I sound a little different than usual. I have no idea why. But moving on to slow living experiences. So the first one is going to New York City and actually vlogging it. You all know I am from New York City. I'm originally from New York City, so it's not really like quote unquote special whenever I go. I live very close by as well, but I really liked the activity of vlogging the experience for you. I've never vlogged going around town, like exploring New York City before, and I don't know why, because I know those are really popular videos, but I thought it was really fun and it was a good challenge for myself to get out there, take my camera, and just do the thing. And the next experience was having a bookshop, coffee shop kind of day. Now, the reason why I ended up having this day, this little trip, this day trip, if you will, was because I had an interview at the bookstore, but it still ended up being so much fun because I browsed that bookstore for hours that day. It was a snowy day as well, so things were just super magical and cozy and fun, and I really, really loved living in the moment that day, as well as being in the coffee shop, which was just a couple blocks away from the bookstore, where I sat. I restarted the Artist's Way, which was really nice to do in a different setting than what I initially started the Artist's Way in, and have a good cup of coffee. So that was such a nice romanticized day. I loved it so much. Okay, moving on to slow living practices for January. And these are both art related, so I'll probably talk more about it in my next Slowing Down with Art series video. But one thing was painting. As you all know, I'm really, really trying to fine tune and get more experienced and skilled with my painting. And so I started the month off with acrylic, taking courses on acrylic, because acrylic is not my strong suit. It's something that I just wanted to learn to do because I really like looking at those pieces, at those art pieces. So that was a lot of fun. But now, as we approach the end of the month, when I'm filming this, it's at the end of the month, not February just yet, I have gotten back into watercolor, and it's so obvious that watercolor is my strong suit because I painted a piece, just a random piece one day, and I showed it to Ian, and he was like jaw on the floor, shocked. Oh my gosh, I love this so much. Whereas when I showed him my acrylic pieces, and this is not anything to do with Ian, it's just the has to do with like my actual talent in terms of acrylic versus watercolor. Like he would be like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, you're doing pretty good." Like you could tell that he was being very encouraging and motivational in terms of me like improving in the acrylic space. But when he saw the watercolor piece, he was like, "Oh my gosh, like you should do something with that," which I thought was so obvious and apparent that like watercolor is my strong suit. So I've been in watercolor right now. I'm also going to experiment with gouache right now, but all in all, I have been experimenting with painting a lot. And the second thing is the Artist's Way. I restarted the Artist's Way. As you probably know, I've mentioned it a few times in some videos, and I gotta say, it's really hitting this time around. I haven't gotten to the same point that I got to when I first started it, so we'll see how that goes. But it is really impacting me in a positive way this time. I'll just leave it at that because, again, I'll talk about it in a Slowing Down with Art video very soon. Okay, and then the last piece in this category is movies, TV shows, games, books, anything of the sort that I can recommend that I consumed in the month of January. And I have two things this time. The first is probably the only movie that we watched the entire month, which is wild because we used to watch a movie every single weekend. But it is Alien Romulus. I didn't think that I was gonna like this movie. I thought it was gonna be just another one of those movies as part of a series, as part of sequels, stuff like that. But this was actually pretty interesting and engaging and gross at some parts. But you all know I like the spooky stuff, so it definitely hit the mark there when it comes to spooky, gross type of, you know Alien. If you know Alien, you know what I'm talking about. And then the second recommendation is The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. You all know that took me since 2023 to start and finish this book, but it's a modern classic for a reason. It's really, really fantastic. If you are into big books, this is probably not going to be as difficult to read as it was for me. But also the writing is incredible. It's fantastic. Again, I understand why it's a modern classic because it was so well written. The story was absolutely fascinating. And I do think it's a book that one should read if they have ever thought about it or considered it or it's been on their mind for some time. It's worth it. Okay, so those are all my slow living favorites for the month of January. Now I'm going to pull out my journal and go through those reflections that I talked about. They are the same prompts that I use every single month. I use them every single month in 2024, and they're effective for me, so I'm going to continue using them in 2025. 2025. If they start to feel a little stale for me, I'll probably switch them up and then I'll let you know. But for now, I think they're really effective in keeping me on track and holding me accountable for my overall 2025 goals, if that makes sense. So let's flip into that. And if you were curious about my journal, this is my 2025 planner. This is a Paper Republic planner. It's an investment, but it will last a lifetime because it is made out of leather. And then the planner inside of it is also from Paper Republic. You don't need to get that because the Paper Republic part is just the exterior, and then you can add whatever inserts you want. But this is the one from Paper Republic. It's the 2025 one. And this is what it looks like inside. Very, very simple and minimal. And so far, it's been okay. I feel like I have been flipping back and forth different notebooks and stuff to get everything that I need to get out on the paper because it's very small and there's only space for like the days of the week, but we'll see how this goes. Moving to the prompts though, the prompts that I wrote are in the back of my overall journal. It's in this blank notebook here. It's literally just a blank notebook. And so these are my monthly reflections for January. The first prompt is my top 3 accomplishments for January. So my top 3 accomplishments are: 1, I started my art journey. That is one of my biggest goals of 2025, is to continue my art education, and I started it. So that's a big accomplishment. The second thing is that I kept a consistent schedule. If you did not know, I got laid off at the start of January, so obviously my schedule is now different than the super structured one that I had before when I was employed, but I was able to keep a consistent schedule. I was able to really keep at it every single week. And of course, things shifted as the days went on, but it was more or less extremely, extremely consistent, which I love consistency. That is like a routine, and I love routines. Routines are pretty good for us as human beings. And then the third accomplishment is that I created a lot of content. This is in part because of that consistent schedule. It really helped me stay on track on certain things that I tend to neglect when it comes to posting. For example, posting on my broadcast channel on Instagram. I will go months without posting on that thing. But since I started this consistent schedule and all of this, in the month of January, I've posted at least once every single week, which is really fantastic. And I've been posting consistently all across my platforms. And you all know, if you may or may not know, I am on a lot of platforms. So it is hard to stay consistent with posting on all of them all the time, but I was pretty darn good this past month, so that's a big accomplishment. Okay, prompt number 2 is my feelings toward my long-term goals. And I wrote that I feel really, really good about them because I focused on pretty much everything. And what I did to ensure that I was holding myself accountable is that I flipped to the front of this blank notebook where I have my 2025 goals, took a look at them, and I can very clearly see by looking at this that I did in fact touch every single one of these goals in some way, whether it's very minimal, looked at it once for the entire month, or I actively looked at it every single week, every single day, whatever it may be. So I feel really good about my long-term goals. Again, it's only January, but it's still a really good feeling. And then the third prompt is my focus for February. So I wrote that I want to do more art, continue creating, create. That is a huge, major, important thing for me for the entire year. So it's just something that I want to continue on in February. It's probably going to be my main focus for many months in the start of 2025. So you might hear me say that often in upcoming videos. But the fourth prompt is my upcoming challenges for that focus. And I wrote down my own anxieties because ever since getting unemployed or being unemployed, I wake up with anxiety. And that's very normal because I'm unemployed as a 30-year-old and I am not used to that. I have been working since I was 15 years old and I've never stopped. I've had tiny breaks in between those 15 years. But this is definitely not my comfort zone. So waking up every morning and knowing that I don't have a job does freak me out. And I think that's very natural. I think it's a very normal feeling to have. But yeah, I do have anxieties. And I think those anxieties get in the way of me prioritizing my personal goals and my personal joys, which, can really hinder my slow living journey. So I'm really trying to target and emphasize the fact that these are my anxieties, these are my fears that I'm making up in my head, and I want to target it every single time that I possibly can so that I can start undoing what the anxieties are doing to my actions, my day to day, blah, blah, blah. I hope that makes sense. In that same vein, my last prompt is how do I overcome that challenge? And that I have been trying to implement affirmations, daily affirmations. They have been really helpful, actually. Discipline. Discipline is probably something I'm learning a lot about myself, and that I don't have much discipline, at least when it comes to certain things. I know people will probably be like, actually you're super disciplined, but depending on what we're talking about, I can be very not disciplined. So I just need to stay disciplined, particularly with my personal interests and joys, and that will be the focus. And also focusing on me, because it's not just about getting a job. It's not just about pleasing X, Y, and Z. It's also about pleasing myself and doing what is good and right and fulfilling for me as well. So those are the prompts. That kind of got a little heavy at the end there. But now that we've completed reflecting on January, I'm going to take you over to my Notion tour.
Okay, friends, welcome to the first 2025 Notion tour. We are going to start in this section over here, and then I'll briefly go into some of these sections or explain these sections for you, because there are some new things. You may notice that there's quite a lot of new things, but over here, this is my 2025 Q1 master to-do list. So what this basically means is I created like a dump of a list, just things that I can throw into one space and ensure that I don't forget any of those things. And that's what this to-do list has become. And it has been really, really helpful for me whenever I'm trying to remember specific tasks and to-do lists that pertain to my 2025 goals, but are really specific to a quarter. So obviously it says 2025 Q1 master to-do list. So this is going to be specifically for the months of January, February, and March. And so this is what we've got so far. To decode what's going on here is I made a checklist, literally a checklist, and things are moving a little slow. Okay, it's working. So I made a literal checklist that I can cross off and cross on, whatever it may be. And the things that are not crossed off means that it's not completed yet, but the things that are highlighted in yellow means that I am currently working on it. So they are in progress. So if you look at it from the bottom up, these things are on the to-do list, haven't been touched yet, haven't been completed yet. This section here are things that I have started, they're in progress, but they're not completed yet. And then these two up here are the things that are completely completed. So the first thing that I did complete so far is to create like a content dump. Again, like another list, a checklist like this, that's just all ideas for what I want to post on my blog / newsletter. There's a slash there because my blog and my newsletter are gonna end up fusing together in one space, which is my Substack. My Substack is already live and you can go check it out now, and I am posting my newsletter content there, but eventually I will start posting blog content there as well, because I will be getting rid of my blog space so that I can just condense everything and put it in one cohesive space that people can just check on Substack. I hope that makes sense. So I've already done that, and to that same point, I started my Substack. So I am now transitioning all of my newsletter stuff, because my newsletter, the thing that I use for my newsletter, I'm canceling it in February this month. So I needed to start it now, and then eventually the blog stuff will go onto that. So those things were completed, and I'm currently working on transitioning the newsletter, all of the things that I just mentioned. And then I'm also working on posting more on my Instagram stories and in my broadcast channel. I mentioned this, or I will mention this very shortly. So that is in progress, and I can technically check it off, but I don't want to check it off just yet. I want the actual quarter to complete before I check it off, so that I'm continuously working on it throughout the entire quarter. And posting once a month on the blog. So I've posted once in January already. So obviously I need to keep this pending all the way up until March, because I haven't gotten to February yet, haven't gotten to March yet, haven't been able to post for those months just yet. And then for YouTube lives, you may or may not know, I did my first YouTube live ever a couple of weeks ago, and it was pretty fun. It was very experimental. I was only on for 30 minutes because I didn't really know how to use it. But if you are all fans of this and you like this, I will continue to do more. So let me know in the comments if you want me to do more of these. This is just experimental. And then these two things that I haven't started yet, I will probably not start this one, but this is to research cinematic style. So just like experimenting more with the way in which I edit my YouTube videos. I would like to get more experimental and cinematic. I think that would be a lot of fun, especially for my blogs, particularly for my vlogs. And then this last one, it's in italics because I don't know if I'm actually going to do this, but it came to my mind and I needed to throw it somewhere, so I threw it here. And I was thinking of like, I don't know, considering a secondhand shop on Etsy or something like that because I really like thrifting and finding cool stuff. But that was just a thought. So don't hold me to this. If you are interested in this, let me know in the comments, but it's definitely an afterthought. It's not something that I'm like really focusing on. But that is my master to-do list. As you can see, I've made some great strides here, even though it is only January. It's only the first month of the quarter. So I feel like I'm making really fantastic progress. And to be fair, some of these things on the list are very easy to jump into. So I'm giving myself a lot of credit, but like also it is a lot of stuff. Moving down to the bottom, there's nothing really here that is different from this corner. So as you can see, everything that's here is also here. This is just like shortcuts that I have here so that I can click into these things. If this bar wasn't there, I can actually hide the bar if I wanted to, and then I can just use these shortcuts. I think I'll actually keep it like that for now because again, it's kind of redundant. And you may notice that I adjusted some of these pictures here so that they're a little less holiday-y and more just general winter. Also, that cardamom bun from New York really spoke to me, so I ended up putting it in here as well. And then I'll just explain a couple of these things. My Slow Morning Diaries hub is where I have all of my content, a lot of very Slow Morning Diaries specific technicality type of stuff. Like I mentioned with the IG story and broadcast channel stuff, it's in this hub. That's why it says check hub there. And then the creative hub, I've shown this before, but this is a hub just for my art and stuff. So I've shown it before, so I don't need to go into that too much. Healthy meal ideas, I also went into this. This is for like my health. I have a nutritionist. I have some follow-up doctor's appointments. So all of that pertains to having more healthy meals in my life, as well as my 2025 goal of having more whole food meals. House projects. I think there was one project that I had for January. Yeah, it was to refresh the studio, which I actually did a vlog all about this, or a video all about this. It's a Slowing Down with Art series video if you're looking for it. And that's mark completed. So big success so far there. You all know that I was struggling a little bit with my house projects late last year. Game tracker, haven't been in there. I hate to say it, but I have not been gaming these days. The podcast, haven't been in there either. We usually do a podcast season from August to October, so I have no reason to go in there right now. Career search, you can probably imply that there's a lot of career search application type of stuff in there, so I won't get into those things. 2025 budget, that also has like specifics in there, so I won't click into it, but I'm trying out a template in Notion for my budget, whereas before I was using a Google Drive like Excel sheet. I'm still experimenting between the two and seeing which one is more effective for me because we're at the end of the month. This is my first time that I'm going to be going in there and actually putting in stuff. So we'll see if this ends up staying for the next month. You'll see. And then this bottom one, the business prophecy, I will kind of keep that. I'm sorry to be super annoying, but I'll keep that secret for now. And that's pretty much it for my Notion tour. I hope that was interesting.
Okay, I hope you liked that Notion tour. As you can see, we are kicking things off in high gear, and I'm definitely getting a lot done, which is really great. You know, might as well get a head start in January, which seems to be like an extra long feeling month as it is, but also things are really like high momentum in January, so maybe that factored in as well. But anyway, let's move on to the next section, setting up my journal for the new month. Now, I've actually already set it up, and it's really not much to set up in this journal to begin with because it's so simplistic. But this is kind of a look at the year at a glance, and I'm not really used to this structure because you can't write much in this section. But what I did was I went into my Google Calendar, I saw any things that I needed to point out, need to make note of, and I put it in the applicable places for February, which is not much, honestly. I just put in some of the major holidays and 2 birthdays. There's not much going on for my February. To be fair, February is also a short month, but I am happy and grateful that it's actually calm, because who knows what happens come summertime or when I get a job. Anyway, so not much to set up there, but I did write down a couple of February goals. So one is to put money into my savings every single month. That is part of my 2025 goal. So that's just a reminder for me to do that in February. The second is to continue the artist's way. So right now I am in week 2. So come February, I'll be going from week 3 onward. So just continuing that. I have to make sure that I get gifts for those birthdays that I just mentioned. I think my voice is going in and out because I'm just not used to talking out loud anymore. I'm just here by myself a lot. Anyway, the next thing I just wrote art, art, art. So creating as much as I possibly can. That is extremely important for me. And then I just have to schedule a couple of meetings with friends because, like I said, I am not really chatting much these days. I'm here by myself, just focusing on my own things and, being independent and introverted as I am. But I do need to schedule in some socialization time. So that is part of my goals for February, so that I make sure that I don't forget to do that. Okay, so we are nearly at the end of the video, but I do want to answer one question from the comment section. Now, I got this comment from a video way back, I believe for my December reset, because obviously this is the first video of the series in 2025. And this question is, do you have any tips for goal planning for the new year? Now, we're already in February at this point, but I do think that these tips will still stand, especially if you were kind of getting your footing, you were kind of getting situated in January, and now you need something that is keeping up that momentum, keeping up the motivation to continuously hold yourself accountable and prepare for your goals. And so one tip that I can give you is to check in with yourself at the end of each month, which is very similar to what this video is. And when I say checking in with yourself, it doesn't have to look exactly like this video. You can, one, do the prompts, and the prompts are just enough. And you don't need to write it down. You can just think about these prompts and just reflect on them. You don't have to put it down on paper or anything like that. You can turn these prompts into conversations with friends, your support group, your partner, whatever it may be. If that's more effective for you to get it out vocally and have a conversation about it, definitely do that. At the end of the day, you're still holding yourself accountable because you're having these conversations, you're thinking about these thoughts, and they're all centric to your yearly goals. And in that same realm of checking in with yourself at the end of the month, you can go through your planner. You can just flip through your planner and see what you've done, whether it's little calendar invites that you've sketched into your notebook, or little notes to yourself that you've put down as the month went on, whatever it may be. These are all forms of reflection and checking in and seeing and acknowledging what you have done in the month. So even if you do it on a more extensive side like I do, or if you do it very minimally like I just mentioned, checking in with yourself is going to be really great for holding yourself accountable every single month. So don't forget to do it at the end of every single month. But that is all for this first recap/reset video of the year. I hope it was fun and interesting. Don't forget to leave some comments down below about anything that you want, any questions that you have for me, and I will be sure to answer one of them in the next video. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I would love to hear about your Januaries. Feel free to, tell us about how your January went, whether it's good and we can celebrate with you, or not so good, so that we can still celebrate that you've made it through the month. But thanks once again, and I will talk to you in the next video.